dear friends, it's Carly and welcome back to another video. This is a new series called Shadow Work Status Update, something to like that. Yeah. So this is an idea that I just got while I was in the shower. You see my wet hair. Where I want to talk about my own shadow work processing that's coming up in relation to the transits that we've been talking about on the channel already and that we'll continue to keep talking about. One example of this is super fun and exciting, which you wouldn't normally think shadow work would be fun and exciting. It sounds scary and maybe a little ominous. Good for you for clicking on the video. It's really not. The whole goal is that we feel better. That's the goal of shadow work, and being with ourselves and being willing to explore what may be dark and unknown parts of ourselves. And so when we turn inward and we take that journey inward, who knows what we find? Yes, we may find wounds. We may find things that you shoved into your shadow because it was too hot to handle when it very first happened, and that stuff is in there. There's also things in there, putting pieces together, that create a feeling of wholeness that I feel like I know I have chased filling that wholeness at times in my life, and I've tried to fill it with work and money and relationships and sex, and I want to fill this gap inside of me. And the more I journey inward, the more full I realize I am, and really what was missing, the gap that was missing from inside me, was me. My own presence. I wasn't present inside of myself. I didn't want to be in there, mostly because I didn't like myself. So it's taken me a long time. It's taken me several years to journey to this place, but here I am now, and here I am with this group that is forming around this channel, and it seems like a lot of you are in it for the shadow work. Like, you are not backing down from Pluto, from deep dark, anything. Like, I'm ready. Put me in, coach. Here we go. So this video is for you guys, and really this whole series is for you guys. And I do want to start this very first update, number one, with something fun, because that's the best day of shadow work you ever have, is when you find like a whole basket of fruit in there, sweet, delicious, yummy, juicy fruit in your shadow. You didn't even know it was in there. So I was on my journey today, like listening to things on YouTube and journaling and doing my time and managing my energy like I do. And I came across a video, and because we're in a shadow workspace, I'm going to tell you guys the extended version of this story, which starts with the video was just uploaded just a few minutes before I ended up clicking on it. And it's from an astrologer that I've never watched before, never saw their channel before. And so, but the name of the video, I was like, holy crap, I want to make a video on that. Here, let me see what she says about it. And so I opened the video, and right off the bat, the person's energy, I don't know, sometimes people just like rub us the wrong way. Sometimes people just like make us go, no, I don't, and like you back away. And this is the South Node through Scorpio transit right now. If you haven't seen that video, you can check that out. I put the link in the description. So this is a time of like our own shadow being brought up to the surface, and every single thing that we encounter in our whole life is just one big mirror that is helping us to see ourselves more clearly. So when I backed away from this astrologer, I was like, whoa, Scorpio South Node, what are you doing? What's going on? And I was like, okay, I'm not backing away. I'm going to open up to this. I'm going to sit with her, and I'm going to try to understand why do I feel like backing away from her? Where is this judgment of her energy coming from? Because in the act of backing away, I've basically made a snap judgment of like, I don't like this. This isn't for me. And that's not to, I kind of went back and forth a little bit, because that's not to discount our resonance. I mean, I think it's really important that we know for ourselves what resonates as true and good and all of that, and that, we become the information that we take in. So we really should be tuning ourselves to things that feel true and good and all of that. But at the same time, like, there's something about this season of the South Node moving through Scorpio that's like these shadows that are bubbling to the surface, that are peeking up at us, that are like tapping us on the shoulder, being like, hey, I'm in here if you want to play. You know, not aggressive, not like blowing apart my whole life. I clicked on a video and I didn't care for her energy. But the way I reacted, the way I pulled back, the way I contracted in my energy, I was like, oh, interesting. That's interesting. Because I don't take that as a judgment on her at all. I think she is bringing something up in me that absolutely stirred up some dust, and now here's some dust. And so I'm like, okay, so yeah, let's sit with this. Let's just listen to her video and see what happens. And let me just tell you, this whole series is what happened. So I cannot, I love shadow work. Like, it's my favorite thing. And I do feel like, I mean, I could get into my whole, like my placements in my chart, and I do feel like a big core part of my own personal soul mission on this planet is to be something of a guide for this space. That's not to say I can teach you how to not feel bad sometimes. Like, I mean, I still feel bad sometimes. I still have moments where I open a video and my energy contracts, and that doesn't feel good. So those things do happen, they come up, but we can learn to be with them. We can learn to, when the tidal wave comes in, we're riding on top of it. We're having an exhilarating, enlightening experience when we go through negative emotion. It can be like that. And that's what shadow work allows us to do. And so, anywho, I'm listening to her video, and what the video was about was when the North Node and the South Node come into conjunction with your planets and luminaries. And I am preparing a video on this topic for the nodes moving through Taurus and Scorpio, but the nodes just came through Gemini and Sagittarius, and for me, that is by far my heaviest axis of energy in my chart. So I know the North Node just transited all my Gemini planets, and the South Node just transited my Sagittarius planets. And so here, let me go to my chart, and as I take in her information about what it feels like when the North Node conjunct your planets, South Node conjunct your planets, I'll look at my own chart and I'll think about it from a Gemini Sagittarius perspective. So here, let me, like on inward, on deeper inward, like here we go, like a little bit more self-awareness, a little bit more knowledge about like this crazy freaking path that we're on, and why is it happening? Why does it happen the way it happens? I mean, like, without knowing the why, it can be really, really hard to stay grounded in all is well-being is dominant. Like, that's what we practice, that's what we reach for. But when you just don't understand the fated turns and twists of your life, it can be really hard to remember that everything is always working out for you. So looking back at this past nodal transit, which is also something I've been asked about a lot, as far as like if I have a video similar to the one I did for Taurus Scorpio, if I have one like that for Gemini Sagittarius, if you would be into that, let me know in the comments. If I have enough interest, I'll definitely make one. Because that was such a huge cycle for me personally, and I think I'm going to be making several shadow work status updates as I reflect back into this cycle that just happened. Basically, I think it was like June of 2020 through January of 2022 was the North Node moving through Gemini. At the same time, the South Node was moving through Sagittarius. Got a little tongue-tied there. So the first planet she talks about in the video, the first thing is the sun, which is a luminary, but she goes through what does it feel like when the North Node conjuncts your sun. And my sun is like 28, 29 degrees of Gemini, and then my Chiron is at almost 30 degrees of Gemini. So like as soon as the North Node came into Gemini back in June of 2020, bam, there's my Chiron, bam, there's my sun. So that was how my cycle started. And so I go back to like using the little date finder or whatever, like go back and show me the transits for like when did it first start? Like when did it first line up, the North Node on my sun? And like no lie, like down to the week, that was when I just like downloaded the understanding, I need to find my life coach. It's time to find my life coach. And what she said in the video was basically when the North Node goes around your sun, it's like you're just all of a sudden insatiable to do your purpose, like do something that matters, shine your light in the world in the way that matters, which totally makes sense when we think about everything that we know about what the sun represents in our birth chart. And that is exactly what it was. Like at that same time, the South Node is sitting, because they're opposites in my chart, like at that same time, then the South Node is sitting on Saturn and Uranus at 29 degrees of Sagittarius. And so at that time, June of 2020, basically I took a step back from the business that I had been creating for the last 4 years, and I completely pivoted into, I'm going to take a step back. And that quickly, within 6 to 8 weeks, led to, I'm ready to open my spiritual business. That got launched in October of 2020, and that unfolded to where I'm sitting right here today. And so that turning point of the North Node going over my sun and knowing that I'm ready to find my life coach at that time, I'm still working with her today, over a year and a half later, because she's that good. But she is who introduced me to my natal chart. So that's when I very first started studying astrology, was the first time I met with her, which was in August of 2020. So it is just insane to me how accurate, how you just like can't make this shit up, how accurate it is to look back at these cycles. So like that was the North Node on the sun, so that was, you know, June of 2020 when it very first entered Gemini. And then fast forward to when I started my podcast, which was February of 2021, so almost a year ago, the North Node was on top of my Venus and Mercury, which are at 18 and 19 degrees of Gemini. So like North Node on my Venus and Mercury, start a podcast. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what that looks like. That makes a lot of sense. So it was so fun to track that. And then as an extension of that little journey, I go back to say, because like in the video, she was talking about what it means when the South Node conjuncts your sun, and then she instantly goes into what it means that did I say South Node? I meant North Node if I did. So then she goes through what it means if the South Node conjuncts your sun. So that would have been when the North Node went through Sagittarius, which was back in 2011. And I did the transit date tracker thing to find like, okay, so when did the North Node enter Sagittarius? So it would have been right there with my Saturn and Uranus. And then also on the South Node end of that, it would have been on my sun and my Chiron. And so I go back and I like find that date and make the chart like match exactly, so I have the exact date. And I find that it was in the spring of 2011, and that was when I was coming out of university. I was on the job hunt, I was finishing my thesis, I was finishing my last classes. Like, okay, so I mean, I'm pretty sure that was right around the time that I got my job that I eventually took in Dallas. So here, let me go dig back through emails from 2011. Shadow work. Let me go dig back through my emails and let me find the offer letter that I got emailed to me that told me, hey, we'd like to offer you this job, which I did end up taking in Dallas. Which when I moved to Dallas in June of 2011, I didn't know a single soul there. It was 8 hours away from home. And I started my own life. I built it from scratch by myself, and it was the hardest / most beneficial thing I've ever done for myself. It was a huge turning point. I had my spiritual awakening during the 6 years that I lived in Dallas. That was the beginning of all of this. Like it was the people I met, the experiences I had, it was exactly where I needed to go. But I really didn't want to. I was so lonely. I was so attached to my friends. I was so like, I liked it where I was. And there was still this part of me that just knew at the time, like, you have to go. And so seeing that, literally, I go and I find the offer letter and I'm like, okay, so March 8th, 2011. And then I go back to the chart, March 8th, 2011. Can't make this shit up. On the exact day that I got offered this job, the North Node was exactly conjunct my Saturn and my Uranus in Sagittarius in my 9th house, and it required that I leave the only world that I'd ever known. I grew up in the same area my whole entire life, and I moved like 2 states away and built a life for myself in a city that's like 20 times bigger than anywhere I'd ever lived. I had to use GPS to get around for like the first 6 months. So yeah, it's a crazy journey to work with astrology and to take that journey inward and to let it unfold like one step at a time. Like, yes, sometimes you find wounds, but sometimes you find things that just like make the whole freaking world make sense. They make your whole life path make sense. Like when I saw that this morning, I had this like visceral release of tension, of like just relief and relaxation, and knowing all is well. All is well. Like I was exactly on the right path then, and I'm exactly on the right path now. And I didn't realize that I even needed to hear that message until I get to this place of looking at the transits from March 8th, 2011. Who the fuck knew I needed to do that? The universe knew that that's the way to get me to that message of all is well. They showed me how perfectly timed my journey really has been. And oh God, I can't even tell you. Like, it just makes me want to cry happy tears that I'm just so grateful to feel so supported by this universe. And honestly, I can say that because of the shadow work that I've done, because I've faced the quote unquote demons and made friends with them. I realize like they're just me. They're just parts of me. They just really need some love. And then I realized all the people out there in the world who look like demons, who look bad and they're mad and they're fussing all around, they just need some love too. And the more we can give love to ourselves, the more we can give love to others. And that's why we do shadow work. So thank you so much for listening to this first episode. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. If you have any shadow work questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. As I will, like I said, this is a series, so I'll be coming back to talk more about my own shadow work process very soon. I also have scheduled, if you're watching this in time, I have scheduled a shadow work live stream for the 26th of February, 2022. And the following week on March 5th, 2022, we will be doing a Zoom. So the difference between those, the YouTube live stream on the 26th is you can chat at me and I'll take as much out of the chat as I possibly can and we'll talk all about shadow work. On the 5th, though, that's a Zoom, and that means that selected participants, it'll just be random, can, if they want, come forward and basically have a one-on-one Zoom conversation with me in front of the group. And yeah, this is something that I'm trying out, and in order to come to the live stream, the 26th, that's open to everyone, subscribe, not subscribe, totally free. Please attend if you're interested. On the 5th, that is open to my Patreon subscribers. So this is a new community that I have just launched in the last couple of days where you can subscribe for a monthly fee of whatever feels good. So the minimum is $1 up to whatever feels right for you. And seriously, if you subscribe for $1, I totally understand. And there is a reason that I left it so open. So I want everyone and anyone who wants to be there to be there. And so yeah, that is that March 5th event. That is part of the Patreon community benefits, essentially, along with the 4th Tuesday of every month. I'm holding basically similar format where I'll let people come forward and they can have conversations about whatever is relevant to them at the time, but open, not specific to shadow work. It's just open for whatever anybody wants to bring forward, be that shadow work or astrology or spirituality in general, law of attraction. What do you got? Let's talk about it. So yeah, all of those things. So thank you again for listening, for being here. This is somewhat of a dream come true for me personally, and I trust this universe is bringing us all to this place at the perfect time because we're ready. We're ready to let our healing become the world's healing. So thank you for being part of that. Until next time, you take such good care of yourselves, and so will I.